This is a little mini review of the Pandigital Novel. I'll show you a few things about it. First of all, I want to show you the size. This is a comparable mid, which this one is the Orphan M70003. Pretty much the same thing as an Econ M001. Lower power. They're fairly close to the same size, but as you can see, even though they both have a 7-inch diagonal screen, the Pandigital Novels is a much higher resolution, and at that aspect ratio, I find it better for reading books. The boot time is pretty close to a minute, a little over. I've gone from 104 to 107 seconds, or a minute 7. As far as weight goes, it is a little bit heavier than the other devices. It's right at a pound, but I don't find that too hard to hold for reading, especially, which is what this is targeted for. It does come with a little stand that you can use. There's a hole in the bottom so you can plug in your cord so that it can charge while it's on the stand. Its main competition, it looks like, is aimed at the Kindle, the Nook, the actual ebooks. And while it's not anywhere comparable outside reading, it is a fairly good reader inside. The backlit LCD does make a good screen to read on. Battery life, however, since it is an LCD and it's running full Android, does mean that it doesn't get quite as long a battery life. The ebook reader does take PDF and EPUBs at the moment. Show you the ebook interface. It is a bit slow, but using the comparable device, I find it's a little easier to read, which you can make the font size bigger or smaller by 1. But, well, that's not going to do anything. You can also night read. You can go to certain pages, or I believe search for text. You can go back to my library if you hit it right. The animations are a bit slow, but at the target audience that it's aimed at, it would be a good device. However, I feel that it competes fairly well in the Android mid market as well. Show you a little bit more. I'm going to use a Sharpie here as a stylus. It makes it a little bit easier. It is keyed directly into the Barnes & Noble store, so you can make purchases and download straight to the device. However, you do go through a web interface to get to it, so it's a little bit hard to browse. It's using a little bit of a deviation of the standard web browser for Android. There's a couple things I find annoying on it. First of all, if you scroll down very far, if it'll load, if you scroll down very far, after a second you lose your menu bar, which your menu is how you get to your back and forward progress, which makes browsing a little bit more complicated. As long as the page is loading, it stays up there. Now, these little zoom buttons are probably the best way to zoom in and out, but they're only visible after you scroll, which makes them kind of a pain to use. You can also scroll by double tapping, but especially with a finger, that gets kind of hard to do. It's obviously not capacitive touch like the iPad or the iPhone, so it does take some getting used to being able to scroll on the thing. Down here at the bottom, you see your always there menu option, which is fine, but it's extremely hard to hit. And there you have all the programs loaded on it currently. We'll go back to home and then we'll look at those. You do have video player and a music player, and they perform fairly well. However, the video player as of now doesn't have landscape mode. You do have landscape mode in the web browser, but you have to turn it on manually. I found the wireless does turn off every once in a while, but then as you saw it just come back on, if you can see that. It really hasn't hindered me browsing any, just something I noticed. Some more Facebook, which Facebook is just the web interface for Facebook. Has a couple of games, but since the touchscreen is just a little bit slow, the LinkedIn game is a little impossible to beat the first level. The little ding means I didn't hit anything. Solitaire LinkedIn. As far as battery goes, I have gotten 3.5 hours on Wi-Fi and 5+ hours just reading with the Wi-Fi off. And to tell you the truth, I just leave the Wi-Fi on now because it doesn't seem. I don't usually read for longer than 3.5 hours anyway. Now let's show you a couple of the neater features. A long press takes you into the power off dialog.